What's up, guys? Welcome to my HTML crash course for absolute beginners. My name is Edward Muss, and in this course, I will be taking us through on the basic things you need to know about HTML. Uh, be sure that there's so much we can talk about, but I want to make this course very short. So we will just talk about the most basic or the most important things you need to understand about HTML. So before we dive in, I want I want to clarify that this course is for beginners, and we will not handle CSS in this video. Note that HTML without CSS is very ugly, and also know that programming takes time. So be patient. At the start, it might be so hard and difficult for you, but as you progress and be patient and be willing to learn, be sure that you're going to make it. And this course is not meant for people who have prior knowledge of programming or any computer science, but if you have a passion, I know you will manage to do this. So, to start, what is HTML? So, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and note that HTML is not a programming language. It's a markup language for creating web pages. A programming language and the language they used to do some logic on the server side. For example, we have the low level programming and high level, maybe the C, C++, C Sharp, Python, maybe I'm using PHP, Java, all those are the programming language. But HTML is not such. It's just to help us to create the layout or the markup of the web pages. So HTML just describes the structure and is the building blocks of a web page. I think you've understood the meaning of HTML. So in this course, what do we need? Okay, so we will need a web browser. That would be Google Chrome, Mozilla, Safari, or any other, even Microsoft Edge, any other web browser that you're comfortable with. In this video, I'll be using Chrome browser. And we also need text editors. So we have a couple of them, but I will be using Visual Studio Code in this video. You can also try others like Atom, Sublime Text, Notepad++. Yeah, there's so many. So for specifically for this video, I will be using Visual Studio Code. So guys, let's get started. So first, let's create our project on our local machine on our computer. So to do that, just identify a place where you want to create your project. We can create a folder here. Let's just create a folder on any location you want to create your project. So let me call this one HTML crash course. So inside this folder, we want to create a file. So we will create a file called index.html. So there's two ways you can do that. Since we'll be working in Visual Studio Code, I will leave a link in the description to where you can download the Visual Studio Code. So once you install the Visual Studio Code, you can just go to here. You can either go to File and then say Open Folder. Then let us locate our folder. So we called our folder HTML CSS course. So select your folder and click yes. So inside this folder, there is these two icons, the one for new file, another one for new folder. So I just click on new file. So let us create a file called index.html. You can call it that file name wherever you want, but just to clarify that the index.html, the index file is the root file of any website. So when you visit any website, the web browser will look for the file called index and it will open it by default. So that's why we have named that file as index.html. So once we have this, now let us talk about the elements and tags, the HTML elements and tags. So you find HTML is made up of elements, and the elements are of different tags. So an HTML element is defined by a start tag, then there's some content, and then an end tag. So usually for you to start a tag, you have to start with the left angle bracket, the tag name, the right angle bracket, then you put the content, and then to close the tag, you start with the left angle bracket, a forward slash, tag name, then the right angle bracket. For example, if you want to write a heading 1, we shall talk about those ones as we proceed. So you start with the left angle bracket or less than sign, then h1 greater than sign, then the content is hello world, then you close by less than sign forward slash h1 greater than sign. Same to other elements. So we have these elements, that's the one that have the opening and the closing tags. Also we have other elements which we call self-closing elements or tags. And this one we find like the line break, which is the BR, is a self-closing tag, and also a HR, which is a horizontal rule, is a self-closing tag. We don't need to close it with the like the other ones. So we have talked about that. Now let's talk about the HTML page structure. So you find this how HTML page structure looks like. So we start with the definition, the declaration of the document with a doc type, just to tell the browser this is an HTML file. And then we start with the HTML tag. Then inside it we have the head, and inside the head we shall have the page title and the meta tags. Then we have the styles, that is the CSS. And then we have just after the head we have the body, and the body contains most of the content of our web page. It could be the headings, the paragraphs, could be anything, images, videos. And then we close the body, and then also we close the HTML tag. So let's just go to our Visual Studio and the Visual Studio code, and now let us just create a simple HTML file. So we have already created the HTML file. Now let's just create a simple structure. So if you're using the Visual Studio Code, there is a shortcut for you to create the HTML structure. So just type exclamation sign and then press tab on the keyboard. So as you can see, that shortcut helps us to create a simple basic structure for HTML. I can just redo it. So you type exclamation mark, then tab, then you create that. So you see it has created the doc type HTML, HTML opening tag, the head. Inside the head we have the meta tags and we have the title. So let's just name the title HTML crash course. HTML crash course. So that's the title. So let us save. We can press Ctrl S or Command S, or just go to File, Save. I recommend you do if you learn the shortcuts, because you'll be saving so many times in this project. So we have saved our file. Now to view our file, we need to open that file in our browser. So just go to your project folder and then double click your file to open. So I will right click and say open with. I will choose Chrome. So as you can see, this is just an empty file with the title that we just wrote. So guys, we have already talked about the HTML structure. As we said, the head will contain the meta tags, the title, and as we proceed to the next video, you'll see now here we will add some other stylings link to a CSS file. So here it contains some stylings just to link to a CSS. So but we are not talking about CSS in this video, so let's just focus on HTML. And please note this in this course the HTML we are going to write will be so ugly because we will not be tackling CSS. So in our body we can now populate our data. So to start with, let me just start talking about comments. So comments, they just explain what and they explain more of our code. So for you to write a comment, you type the left angle bracket, exclamation mark, hyphen. As you can see, so that's how in my VS Code it has already auto completed. So here you can write a comment, say this is a heading. So as I save, then refresh here, you find there's nothing because this one is not visible. But if I type something else, now it will be visible here. So let's just speak about some of the other tags. So I will start talking about now the first element to speak about. It will be headings. So headings, they run from H1 to H6. So let's just type H1, then press tab. So then say this one is heading 1. So if I save and refresh here, you see the heading 1 is now populated. So let's just copy this. So the shortcut for copying in VS Code is just pressing Alt, Shift, then the down arrow. So let's just copy it like 6 times. Then just name this one as H6, H2, sorry. And here H2. And just do this on H3. As you can see, there's some more extension that you can install in Visual Studio Code to make your work faster. For example, there's an extension called rename tag. So when I rename one of these, it will automatically rename the closing tag. So if I rename the opening or the closing tag, it renames the other one. But we can see right now I'm doing it manually because I have not activated the extension. Yeah, so we have just done those. So let me save and refresh. So as you can see, this how the headings are. So they are just text of different sizes that will appear on the screen. So now let's talk about paragraph. So paragraph is the tag for paragraph is P. So when you just type P and then tab, you just say this is a paragraph. And let me try writing lorem, then tab. So you see when you type lorem and then tab, the Visual Studio Code will generate some dummy text for you. Yeah, so let me just delete this one. Let me delete that. And then just type lorem and then press tab. See, it generates that text. So when you save and then refresh, you find there is this is a paragraph. So you find a paragraph, and these elements, they are called block elements. So we will talk about them. The block elements, you see, like by default they have some margin at the top and margin at the bottom, and they cover the entire width of the screen. So I want us to wrap text. You see, like this text is too big and is overflowing. So for us to wrap text in Visual Studio Code, you can use a shortcut Alt and Z. So you just press Alt and Z on the keyboard, and then it will wrap your text. So the text will not be overflowing. So it will give you ample time when you are doing this tutorial. So now let's talk about the block and the inline elements. The block elements are always start on a new line, and the browser automatically adds some space or margin before and after the element and takes the browser full width. Examples are P, divs, H, and so forth. But an inline element does not start on a new line. An inline element only takes up as much width as necessary. But for block elements, it will take the entire width of a browser. So for us just to try to apply some of the inline elements, because these one are block. So in this paragraph, I can try adding something like strong just to make it bold. So let me delete this and say I want to make this ipsum dollar to be bold. So strong is for just making the text to be bold. So if I refresh the browser, you find the text is bold. You can also say you want to emphasize. So there's an inline element called M. Inline, those are the tag called M. So when you refresh, you find this one is italicized. So just to emphasize. So those are some of the elements. We have so many of them. You can try U for underline. Let me just type the underlined. Save, refresh here. Find this one is underlined. Yeah, so then we have others like href, but we shall speak on that as we progress when we be talking about links or anchors. So guys, let us now move to anchors or links. And anchors are usually denoted by A. So links have an href attribute. So what's an attribute? Elements in HTML have attributes. So these have additional values that configure the elements or adjust their behavior in various ways to meet the criteria the users want. So usually it's the tag name, and then there is an attribute name, attribute value, the content, and then the tag name, the closing tag name. So examples could be href, id, class, title, and so forth. So for example, if you just say hey, h1, let's just go to our Visual Studio again and try it out. So guys, we are in our Visual Studio and I want to add an attribute called title on the heading 1. So the attribute name is title and the value is, say, this is a tooltip. So when I save and refresh the browser, so when you hover over heading 1, you find that the attribute title is like a tooltip. It displays on that title. Let me say I want to add something here. Say I want to add an ID, say h6 ID is equals to heading. So the IDs are usually unique identifiers, especially when you want to integrate with CSS or JavaScript. So they are used to identify a certain section or a certain elements in your HTML page. Yeah. And so let us now talk about anchors. So let me just put another self-closing tag. We had talked about HR. So HR is usually a horizontal rule. So if you place a HR then refresh, you'll find a line taking the full width of the browser. You can also place line breaks. So if I say BR, so angle bracket BR and then close. This one adds more space. So you can see now we have more space. So the more if I duplicate that, I'll continue to have more space like that. Yeah. So I just place that so that you can now separate this one. Now below this H1, I want now to talk about anchors. So let's just comment here and say headings. These are paragraph now, paragraphs. And the shortcut for commenting in Visual Studio Code is command and then the /. So you can use that to as a shortcut in commenting some stuff on your code. So here, let me also press command /, then a comment say anchors. So anchors is just some links that you add on your web just to point to somewhere. So let me just type some paragraph here. Say para p, then type lorem just to have some text. So if I save and refresh, so we have our paragraph there. And now I want to make this word to be a link so that when someone clicks, let me just call it Google. Let me just edit and call it Google. So when someone clicks on Google, it takes them to Google web page. So here I will write the left angle bracket, type A, space href. So href is an attribute equals to double quotes, and then I will close that. So let me just cut this Google and place it in between the opening and the closing tag of anchor, the A tag. So here I want it to take the person to Google. So I need to go to https google.com. So if I save and refresh, you find it's under, actually it changed the color and underlined. So we'll see more on how to style these links in the next course, which is the CSS crash course. So when you click on this, it will open Google, as you can see. But now the problem is that it is taking us away from our main website, and we'll find when we want to open some external links, we need to keep our website and open the external website in a new tab. So for us to achieve that, we need to add another attribute called target, and target, so we give it a name blank. So this target will take us to, it will open in a new tab. So if we refresh and retry, you see it opens a new tab and our tab is still intact here. And there's other things that we can do about links. You can also wrap links all over an image, but we'll do that when we reach to the images section. Let us now proceed to lists. So let me just create a section here, type a comment and call it lists. So we have two main types of lists, and those are ordered and unordered lists. So the difference is that ordered lists are usually numbered and unordered lists are usually bullet. So let us start by unordered list. So for us to do lists, first we need to write the tag for list, which is ul for unordered list. So we can just type ul, then press tab. The VS Code will generate it for you. Then, so we have the ul, and then we have the list item li, and in the list item you can now say this list 1, list item 1. So let me alt shift down arrow to duplicate it 4 times, and let's call it list 2, list 3, and list 4. So when I save and refresh here, you see this is our list. So that's how lists are, and they are bulleting HR. So let me just add a line there. So this is our list. And also you can also style this list with CSS. There's an element called list type, which can be used to style your list. For example, if I say list type square, you see the changes to square. So you can check on more of the options for type and see how you can style it. Yeah, and now let us now do ordered lists. So let me just comment this one again and call it an ordered list. An ordered list. And let me grab everything here and place it down here and change this and call it ordered list. So I will just change this. I will replace U with O or L. So I find this one will be numbered like that. So we'll refresh. So this is the ordered list, and this is an ordered list. This is ordered list and it's numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is all about list, and there's so many things that you can do about the list. You can also convert, say you want to add maybe a link, So I want to add an href, so I say href is equals to so then I close the href here and say this is, I can just place hash. Hash means it's blank, it will not go anywhere. So when I refresh here, it becomes a link. And these are used especially, an ordered list are used when you are styling up a navigation menu. And in our CSS tutorial, I will show you on how we can navigate, how you can style up your navigation, your list style to a navigation bar. So, and to be a link that can be used to navigate from one page to another. So that's all about lists. Now let's talk about tables. So let me comment here and say tables, and then write a heading tag h3 tab tables. So we find that in 90s tables were used to create layout, but tables are not meant to create page layouts. So it's not recommended for you to use tables to create page layouts, or rather use CSS to create and style up your website. So tables are only used for tabulating tabular data, maybe a data from an API, data from a database. So that's the main function. So tables usually have the tag table. So you have the tag table, and then inside the table we shall have the heading, the header row, which is usually the heading of the table, and then we have the body, which is usually the entire data. So we write the T head just to help us know this is the heading, and then the table heading will have a row, so TR for row, and then inside the row we have now the heading data, so we write the TH, and then say I want it to have first name, and then I press Alt Shift down arrow to duplicate that, and then say second name, duplicate it again, say email, duplicate it, then let us write gender, then say I think let's just leave those four. So when I save and refresh this, you see this one and a bold. The table might look ugly because it will need to be styled for it to look pretty good. But for this tutorial, we will not handle that. So below the head, let us add another tag element, call it tbody. And inside the tbody also, we'll have the table row, the tr, and inside the tr we'll have now the table data, the td. And now so the first td will now correspond to the first th. So our first name is Edward, so I'll duplicate that one. My second name is Muss, duplicate that. Email, I've just placed dummy email example at domain.com, and then lastly is the gender. then just write it mail, save and refresh. So you see our data has been populated here. So we can just grab this and copy it several times and just say the other name is James, Allen, mail. Now this one be Jane Doe, and the gender will be female. So that is it. So when you refresh, so now our data is being populated as you go, like that. You can also just you can add something else. Say I want to add say ID. So this one will be ID1. So I call it 1. So let me just copy this and paste. Two. And this is 3. Save, refresh. So it's named like that. So that's all about tables. Now let us go to forms. Let me add another H3 and call it forms. And comment say forms. So forms are usually used to submit data on our website. HTML alone, it cannot submit data. You will need other languages like JavaScript, Python, or any other server-side language for you to be able to submit form data. So for us to create a form, just write an attribute form. So it will create a form for us. So the form usually have an action, and action is usually a file that is used to process the data and maybe either submit it via API or submit it to a database somewhere. So for example, if I have a file, say process.php, so you just put there. So when someone clicks on submit button, it will take the person to another, it will send that data to this file for processing purposes. So, and also there's other thing we could add here called method. So mostly when you're submitting data, we use post. So we have two, post and get. So post is commonly used for submitting data because secure. Like get is used maybe when you are doing a search, when you are submitting search query. For example, when you search google.com and you search something there, so you can use get because it displays everything in the URL, and it's somehow not safe for security reasons. So use post. Then here we want now to create our forms. So first I will start with labels, the form labels. So a label is just something that describes more about the form. So let's call this label as first name. Then below the label, let us write there an input field. So input field, so we'll handle about the input field, and we're just using an input field of type text. So when I just do that and refresh, you find this a form. Let me just below the form, let me place some white space. Let me just type BR and copy it several times so that I don't want you to see at the bottom. I want to create some space like that. Yeah. So input type of text, we have the input type of text. So you can say first name is that. I can just copy this. Let me leave some space here and say now last name. Last name. Last name, like that. And then let's go to next field, say now email. So copy that, paste it here, change this one to email, and change the input type to be email. So in HTML5 we have this option for email. So when you refresh, find that email. But now you find our form is not well organized. So we can use some block elements to add some space in between each field. So I can just space down here and here add a div. Just add a div there, then close it here. Then let us indent. Indentation is very key in programming because it makes your code to look pretty. And like without indentation, your code will so much ugly. Yeah. And also it tries to organize things on your page. So let me just tap to move forward, then tab. So that is it. Lastly here, some people also use P to just add some space. But you find when you're using some frameworks like Bootstrap, you find it gives you more options on how just to add a class and a class of form group or form control, and it will style your things up. So as you can see, it has collapsed everything like that. You can also maybe say I want to place a break here just to make those two things separate. So now let's just work with it like that. So those how forms are. So for more things, let me just copy that again. So we have talked about input type of text, email, and we have so many of them. We could have date. So let me just change this one to date and say input type date. So save, refresh. See, this is a date. You can select a date like that. And again, let's go on. So we have others like radio button and checkboxes. So let me start with a checkbox. So just change the input type to checkbox. So a checkbox can be used to select multiple things. Unlike a radio button, when a radio button has the same name, you can only select one. So let me just show you what I mean. So let me just call this one likes or interests. So just call it interests. So and the interest, say interest 1. And I will copy that. Interest 2 and save. So let me just place a break here, just to make to add a line break between the label and the input field. So these are our interests. So you can see I can check many. See, if I duplicate this like 4 times, I can still select all of them. When I refresh, so you can select multiple options. But now if I just select everything here, copy and convert them to be radio buttons, you'll see what we'll do. So let me just convert this. So I want to select all of these at once. So I will click where I want to start, press Alt and Shift. So when you are pressing Alt and Shift, holding them down, click where you want to end, then select everything like that. Then I just type radio, save, then refresh. So you see also this one can be selected like that. But let us now add an attribute of name. Let us add an attribute of name on all of them. So you say name equals say interest, save. Let's refresh it here. So you see when I select the first one and I pick another one, it deselects the other one automatically. So that's how the radio works. Another thing I will talk about is placeholders. For example, in this field of email, I can add another attribute called placeholders. So a placeholder is just some text that will be inside the input field. Say, please enter your email. So when I refresh, see this is populated. When you click, you can type and it goes away. When there's nothing, it comes in. So that's a placeholder. And let's talk about text area. So before I talk about text area, let me do numbers. So just say telephone or age. Let me change this one to number. Let me just remove the placeholder like that. So when you refresh, find this one, it can only accept a number. With this, you can also increase or reduce. So it accepts numbers alone like that. And now let me do this, copy it now, move on and do something else. So let us talk about file. So file, upload image. Let me give it a label of upload profile image. So just change the input type to file. Let's refresh. You can see now you can upload something like that, but be sure this thing will not be uploaded unless you are using other server-side language like JavaScript. For you to upload the file on pure HTML, it will not work. We have another type which is called text area. So let me just put a break there and say type text area. So text area usually comes like this. So you can decide, you can give it a name, say message. So name attribute is usually the name that you use, especially when you are sending the data to another file to be processed. The name that you will use to identify that specific field. So this is the name, and it should be unique on that page. You cannot have two fields with the same name. They will conflict each other. Same to the ID. Just make sure each field has a unique name. So let it have 30 columns and 10 rows. So when you save, Control S, then refresh here, so you can see this one. So you can say I want it to be small, so reduce this one to around 5. Save and refresh. See, it reduces. So this is all about the text area. And last but not least, let's talk about submit. So just place another form here, call it input type submit. So let's call it submit. So input type submit is just a button, then give it a value of submit like that. So this one, when you click on it, it will now submit the data. See, like it's just a button. So let me try to separate things there. So when you click on this, you see it try to look for this file process.php, and the file does not exist. So that's why it's returning this. So it's just used to submit data. If I change this submit to say button, it won't do anything. You see, when I click, there's nothing. But if I change it to submit, it will now be used to submit data. So when I refresh, click, it calls that file process.php, which does not exist. We have another option, another input field called select. So let me just say select like a drop down, and select usually have options. So say option 1. So let me give it a label. Give it a label and call it select gender. So say option 1 to be male, then another option to be female, and then another option to be other. So when I save that, refresh, you see this is our select button there. So you can use it to select some other data like that. Let's now talk about images. So let's just go down, and here let me put another heading and say images, And under the images, let's have the image tag. So you say img for image. So image tags is just img, then it has a source. So source is usually the location of the image or the URL to the image. Then we have alt. Alt is usually the description of the image just in case the image does not load or does not found. So the text that will be displayed. So for us just to display the image, I just go to Google and search for an image. I have searched bird and these are birds. So let me just select this, right click, save images. Let me save this image as image1.jpg. It's in downloads, so I can navigate to my folder HTML crash course and save it there. So in your project, just write the name of the image, which is image1.jpg. So you just type image1.jpg and our image will load. So when I refresh this, you see we have our image here. So we can also adjust this image size by adding another attribute called width. So you see width is equals to say 400 and refresh, find our image reduces like that. And another thing is about alt. Alt is just a text that will be displayed just in case the image will not be found or the image will take more time to load. For example, when someone uploads a very large image, say 10 MB, the server will take, the web browser will take more time to process. So this text will be displayed. So just say bad image. So when I refresh, we find that text is not visible. But if I just try to change this file to something that is not existing, you see this then the name. So this name will be displayed. So that's the importance of having the alt and the width. So another way just to link your images, you just create a folder here and call it images img, or just call it images. Let me just copy this, cut this image and place it inside this folder. So when I refresh this, you find the image is not found because the location changed. So just to call it rightly, we enter the name of the folder, then place a /. So when you reload, our image will be back. You can also wrap a link on your image. So let's call it href. I want to go to nothing like that and just close it at the end of the image. So let's close it there. So right now when you hover over this, it's not clickable, but when I refresh, see I can click on it. It's now clickable. If I just put a working URL, say google.com, self refresh, then it can still take me to, okay, sorry, I was to write it with HTTP. It to work like that. You can also place a target of blank. So it opens like that. So we are done with images. Now how can we add a video? So below here, let's just place a BR, and now just type a video. So the concept is the same. So under video, let's just copy a video into a folder. So let me just take this video here, copy it in this folder, HTML crash course. Let me paste it there. So here I will just place the name of the video as the source. So I'll type video.mp4. So when I refresh this, see, this is our video. Same as the image, you can also apply width. Refresh, so the same width. But now our video is not playing. When you click on it, there's nothing. So you can place another attribute called controls. So when you refresh, controls. So refresh, you find now it has controls. You can now play, can pause, can mute, all that. And there's another attribute called autoplay. So autoplay will autoplay the video when the browser loads. So when I just refresh like that, sorry guys, I just noticed that autoplay will only autoplay when you add another attribute called muted. So it can only autoplay when it's muted. So when I say autoplay, then I add another attribute called muted. When I refresh, you see the video will automatically start playing like that. And then there is another attribute called loop. So loop will loop the video. So when it ends, it will start again. So that's how it's all about adding a video. Now let's talk about quotations. So let me type H3, type quotations. So quotations, I will talk about block quote. And just type lorem to place some data like that. So block quote is like something that is cited. So you can see by default it will leave some space, some margin left. So these are quotation. Also, let's talk about cite. So I can still do the same thing. Say HTML. You just type a paragraph P, type say HTML. Let me just cite it, say cite HTML crash course. And then outside the site say by Edward Muss. So refresh. You can see this shows that this thing is cited. Yeah. So lastly, but not the least, let's talk about semantic tags. Semantic tags or semantic elements clearly describes the meaning both to the browser and to the developer. So we have tags like article, aside, header, main, footer, mark, nav, section, all those. So usually helps us to organize our page. Say this is the header, this is the nav, this is the section, and so forth. For example, if we just do that in our HTML. So let me just create a new file, call it blog.html, and here just say in the body, let's say we want to have header. The header, inside the header we'll have a nav. Just say, let's just write a P and say navigation, and then below the header we'll have the main content. So let's have something like main. Inside main we have an article. Inside article we have maybe a section, and inside the section maybe we have h1, or just place image first. So you want to have an image linking to images. Just place that image. Then below the image we want to have, let's give it a width of 400. Then below the image you need to have the block title. So you say h2, call it block title. And then after that we have now a paragraph with some dummy data. Like that. Then maybe below it we'll have some other, say small. Small is another attribute that makes text to be smaller. Say small, say author, Edward Muss. Then maybe category, tutorials. So let us just navigate to this. So I will change this from index.html to blog. So I can also achieve that here, say under this navigation, in these two paragraphs, let me make the first paragraph to be a link. So this link leads me to, so this is a link and it leads me to index.html. Index.html. And the other one will link me to blog.html. So you just call it blog. And you call it this home. So I can still copy the same so that to be uniform and paste it on this file just after the body tag. I'll paste it there. So when I refresh this index file, I will have my two files, blog and home. So when I click on this, it takes me to this, so I can navigate to and fro the two pages like that. So let's go to blog. So this is our blog. You have the image, the blog title, the excerpt, the author, and a category. You can also include the date there. So back to our blog. So say there we have that. Maybe just after the article, we need to have something else, say aside. And aside could be, maybe could be categories, could be having something a search input field where someone can type something and search something on the blog. So let's just create an ordered list here with list items, say categories, or you can just place a title at the top here. So h3, say categories, and the list item will be, first category should be news, say tutorials, animation, etc. So when I refresh here, you see this one there. So for us to style this to be like a sidebar, we need to apply some CSS, and we shall do that in our CSS lesson that will follow after this. So basically, these just are semantic tags or elements. So this one will help us. The most important, or the core function of these elements is just for presentability and to organize your work, both to you and someone else who may be following up your code, because someone else just know this is the header, this is the main thing, this will be the article, this will be the aside. So like you can easily understand, and also it helps in search engine optimization, because Google can be able to crawl your page and know specifically which content is which. So they're good. Some people will tend not to use them, but it's recommended to use them so that you can organize your page. Lastly, let's look now on the meta tags. So meta tags, or the SEO meta tags. So SEO meta tags are mostly used for search engine. So we'll have like a meta name, a meta tag with name, called description, and then the content. The content will be usually what you want people, for example, what will be displayed. For example, if I visit the file that you have created, our website, maybe our home page, when you search, what will be visible in a search engine, either Google or whichever engine you are using, basically is this description. So you say this is HTML home crash course homepage. So this is basically what you will see. You can write words of about 160 characters. Then we have another one called author. Before author, let me type keywords. Just the keywords you want people to search. So you can just say HTML, CSS, separate with commas, CSS, programming, and lastly, let's have author. So you can just say the author there. Thank you guys for following up on this tutorial. I hope it really helped you. I think that's much I could cover in this lesson. See you in the next lesson. Thank you for watching.